What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. I'm your host, Kindal. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. In today's episode, we are going to talk about a debate that's been going on forever. Since people have done cardio workouts and strength training workouts, there's been this debate of which order should you do them in? Should you knock out your strength training before your cardio, or your cardio before your strength training? Or should you try to avoid not doing them back to back altogether? We're going to go through some new research and figure out which is the best for you. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there that the answer is not so clear cut. But hopefully by the time this episode is done, you'll have the answer that fits you so that you can go about your training in the best way possible to get the most out of your workout routine. Now, like I said, hopefully you hear this episode and you enjoy what you hear. You decide to come back and you listen to past episodes. There's over 600, and you decide to come and listen to future episodes. Brand new podcast episodes get released every single week. And in those talks, I love sharing with you guys my knowledge as a trainer for nearly 20 years, as well as being a nutrition coach and a woman who has been through all of the struggles that we all go through. I've struggled with my own personal fitness, my own nutrition, and I share all of that information with you guys. I try to be as open of a book as I possibly can, because we are all in this together and learning as life goes on. So let's go ahead and get through this talk, where again, I was recently asked in Fit Women's Weekly Live, which is my online training studio, if you are going to do strength training cardio, what order should it be done in? And you guys know I'm a big component of what's called hybrid training. I have always been a component of this. I have been a runner since I was 19 years old. I've been focused on my strength training since I was about 21 years old. And I've been doing them both and prioritizing them both since that time. But the word hybrid training has really only become mainstream in the past year or two. But let's just say I'm a big fan. I think it is important that we prioritize our muscle building, right? Because we want to make sure that we maintain our muscle mass for our metabolic health and our bone health and for our general mobility through life. And then it's also important for us to make our cardio a priority because, hello, it's our cardio. We want to have a healthy heart, healthy lungs, and help reduce our risk of disease as we go through that can increase with poor cardiovascular health. So let's dive into this question then. Which should you do first? So this was an article that was sent to me called Cardio or Weights First? A kinesiologist explains how to optimize your exercise routine. And I'm not going to read the entire article, but we will go ahead and introduce him. He is, let's see, I'm trying to actually look for the author, Randall Clayton, who is a exercise physiologist, and recently in his lab, he's been studying the effects of combining aerobic and resistance training on improving health-related fitness, particularly aerobic capacity and muscular strength. So research suggests that when you're designing your exercise program, there are a few factors to take into account, including age, fitness level, and exercise history and your goals. You'll want to consider the volume of your exercise routine, that is the duration and the intensity, and you'll schedule your training during the day. They go over the benefits of exercise. I feel like we know the benefits of exercise, right? It's no surprise that exercise is obviously good for you. Aerobic exercise, they consider to be rhythmic activity that gets your heart pumping, examples being walking, running, swimming, cycling, or using a cardio machine like an elliptical trainer. Right now, for me personally, I am doing Metcon workouts for my cardio as well as walking, but I don't consider walking a cardio workout for me. I'm not getting my heart rate up to a point where it's keeping my heart keeping my heart rate up for a prolonged amount of time. For me, walking right now is just about moving my body on a daily basis because I'm recovering from an injury. But you guys, if you listen to the episodes before, you'll know plantar fasciitis is going on right now, and it absolutely sucks, but I am doing what I can in all the exercises. But all that to say is that I am still prioritizing aerobic fitness. It's just looking a little bit different these days. Let's see, aerobic exercise can improve cardiorespiratory function. Over time, your heart and lungs get better at delivering oxygen to your muscles and take energy for continued muscle contractions. It can also reduce chronic risk of disease, increase how much energy your body uses, and how much fat it burns to improve physical and cognitive function. Again, things that we know. But this isn't anything new. We know this. This isn't a question. The question becomes, what order should we be doing these in? So for most people, general fitness goers, people who are just trying to make sure that they are living their healthiest life, maybe they're trying to prioritize burning body fat or building muscle mass, but just for functional fitness, to be able to look their best and feel their best going through their life. So which order should it be doing? Studies on concurrent training, which is back-to-back training, suggest a generalized training effect, similar improvements in aerobic capacity and muscle strength, regardless of the order of aerobic or resistant exercises. These benefits hold true for a wide variety of people, including those who are initially inactive, recreationally active, and young people and older women and men. So basically, if you're not trying to go to the Olympics, you're not training for something specific, you're simply training to be the healthiest version of yourself. It doesn't matter what order you do your cardio or your strength training in. Do the order that feels best for you, that you feel you're able to give those sessions the most amount of energy per session that makes you feel the best. So if you're somebody who works out first thing in the morning, I don't know about you, but I prefer when I'm first waking up to knock out some cardio because that's going to help my body to wake up. And it doesn't take a lot of energy for me to go out and run a couple of miles, whether it's outside or on a treadmill, when I first wake up. And then once I'm awake, I can move more into something that takes a little bit more mental power, like weightlifting. Because when you're weightlifting, that's not something that you can just fling weights around. You want to make sure that you are physically present so that you're aware of how your body is moving so that you can decrease your risk of injury. You can make sure that your reps aren't lazy, and you can also make sure that you have enough energy, your body is awake enough where you're able to use loads that actually challenge yourself. So for me personally, I would want to, like, again, just if I'm not training for something specific, I would feel better doing my cardio first and then moving into my strength training. However, a lot of people actually do it the opposite because they feel like they're stronger prior to doing their cardio and they want to make sure that their lifts are getting all of the attention and using all of the energy that they have. And then they're going to go into something like cardio that doesn't take as much effort after their strength training. So you do what you want to do. I think that that is the most important lesson when it comes to training, you guys, is that we live in a period where there's so much information out and there are people pushing their agendas, right? They're pushing their products and their programs and trying to make it seem as if they know everything. And when they do that, they are complicating the things that aren't so complicated, that don't need to be complicated. Nutrition is being overcomplicated. Well, when it really comes down to it, it's calories in versus calories out, make protein a priority, eat fiber, and hydrate yourself. You follow those rules, you're going to see results. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. With your exercise, it means lifting weights on a regular basis to make your muscles go, oh my gosh, this is hard. I need to build more strength so I can handle it better the next time. And it takes cardiovascular exercise where you are keeping your heart rate up for a certain amount of time, different for everybody, and where you're making your heart and your lungs go, oh my gosh, this is hard. I need to get better next time. And if you're doing those things, all the other little nuances that people are trying to make it so it seems like it's so much harder and you have to use their training program is ridiculous. Find a program that makes those elements fit into your lifestyle and go for it. But don't try to make it so complicated that you end up not doing anything because you're like, well, I can't run before I work out, so I'm just not going to run at all, or vice versa, right? Again, do what works best for you. Now, that is for just general population, for 90% of people. However, there are those people that are training for performance, whether that's an athlete or you're training for a race or a particular type of event, in which case then it does actually matter which order you want to do your training in. So here's what the article goes on to say. On the other hand, you want to be more thoughtful about the order you work out if you're a performance-oriented athlete who's training to get better at a particular sport or prepare for a competition, like I just said, or an event. Training towards specific performance goals can change the calculus of the order that you work out. Lighthouse research suggests that for these exercises, concurrent training may slightly inhibit improvement in aerobic capacity. More likely, it can hinder gains in muscular strength and power development, and to a lesser degree, muscle growth. This phenomenon is called interference effect, and it shows up in well-trained athletes undertaking high volumes of both aerobic and resistance training. I think that that's very important to stress, high volumes, right? Athletes obviously work out more than the general population. And so when you're putting your body under high volume of high intensity work, that can be a lot on your system. And so if you're going from one intense training session straight into the next without any sort of recovery time in between, then yeah, it's going to be really hard for your body to recover. And in turn, your body could actually break down, especially if you're not recovering with adequate fuel, right? Your body doesn't have the elements that it needs to be able to repair itself. And so then you're just adding more volume on top of it, which is going to wear you down. So it's really no surprise that all of that stuff is hindered from muscle strength, power, and muscle growth. So what should you do if you are training, but you still want to make sure you're not avoiding anything? If you're training for a race and you're trying to get your first marathon, strength training is still very, very important, especially to help you avoid any risk of injury. If you're training for a strength training competition of some sort, cardio is still very, very important. Have you ever gone to do deadlifts or heavy lunges, and after your set, you put that weight down and your heart skyrockets, and in your head, you're going, oh my God, this is a cardio workout? That just means that you're not very fit when it comes to your cardiovascular health. So you need to make sure that you are still adding in cardiovascular workouts in there as well. So what you should be doing in that case is, one, prioritizing first what it is that you are training for. So if you're training for a race, then yes, get your run done first in the day. Second, try to separate them by as much as possible. If you have 5 to 8 hours to separate your workouts from your run to your weightlifting, then do that. Now, I understand that a lot of people can't do that, so any type of separation is going to be beneficial. But if you can also separate it by a day of some sort of revolving, quote unquote, split routine, do that as well. So maybe one day do your cardio workout, the next day do your weightlifting. But if you can't do that, try to separate it. And then the third suggestion that I would have, if you're like, no, I need to make sure that I'm getting my training in, I'm going to have some double days, then what I would suggest is just changing the intensity. So maybe you're going to start with your run. I'm just using, because I feel like most people are training for runs, right, versus strength training. But if it's a strength training or a powerlifting competition, then that would come first. You're going to make that your biggest priority, where you're able to put in all of the intensity, and then go into a lesser intense cardio workout. I wouldn't give a 90-minute Olympic lifting workout, because I'm training for some sort of Olympic lifting competition, and then go into a 60-minute high intense interval cardio workout. That would be a lot on the system if you're not able to separate it. I would do that really hard Olympic lifting session and then go into just a nice steady state 30-minute cardio run where I'm still going to get the benefits, but it's not going to be so hard on my system and it's not going to be super long. Or switch that around. So I'm going to get my hard training with my run done first, and then just go into some basic accessory works for the lift to knock out the second part, where I'm still lifting weights. I'm still going towards failure, but I'm not doing a 90-minute lift session, so that I'm still not crushing my body in that workout. So just something to think about. So given research findings about concurrent training for high-level athletes, it makes sense to do resistance training first, or to train the first type of exercise that is most important to your performance goals, which is what we're talking about. So additionally, if elite athletes should give their bodies a break for at least 3 hours between resistance and aerobic training. So I've read in the past 5 to 8 hours. They're saying at minimum go for 3 hours. So maybe that helps you guys. And then here's something that I did want to point out. So that kind of answers the question. For most of us, it doesn't matter the order that you do it, just get it done. Both are important. Get it done that feels, for whatever feels right for you. If you're training for something specific, train that specific modality first. And then if you can, separate it by at least 3 hours to the second part of your training. But if not, just try to decrease that intensity a little bit and listen to your body. Make sure that you're giving your body some breaks. What I do love, though, is that he has studied something called microcycles, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Tabata, just really high intensity training, except that this is combining cardio and resistance training. So he says in the lab, we're studying what we call microcycles of aerobic and resistance exercise. Instead of needing to decide which to do first, we weave the two modalities together for shorter bursts. First, for instance, one set of resistance exercise immediately followed by 3 minutes of walking or running, and you repeat the cycle for as many times as necessary to include all the resistance exercises in your routine. So that to me would take a really, really long time, but I'm not against the idea of trying this. I love experimenting with new methods and I am very intrigued by this. But I just feel like if you're doing 3 sets of 10 squats and then 3 sets of 10 deadlifts and then 3 sets of 10 walking lunges, like if you're doing a leg day, for example, then 3, 6, 9 times 3 is 27. Plus you're adding in all the time it's going to take you to go from that exercise to your piece of cardio equipment and then changing all the weights. Yeah, we're talking about a 90-minute session, whereas typically I could probably knock out a 45-minute strength session, 30-minute cardio session, and be done in about an hour and 15 minutes. So that might be adding time, but at the same time, I would be curious because I feel like if you're doing it in 3-minute bursts, you're probably going to be more likely to increase the speed of your run and push a little bit harder. So you might not run for all of those sessions or all of the rep rest. I don't know. It would be interesting to try out. Let's just continue reading to see what else he says. Our preliminary findings suggest this method of concurrent training results in similar gains in aerobic fitness, muscular strength, and lean muscle mass, while also feeling less challenging when compared to typical concurrent routines where all the resistance exercise is followed by all the aerobic exercise. So for most people, this is just his afterthoughts. For most people, my current advice remains to choose the order of exercise based on your personal preference and what will keep you coming back to the gym. High-level athletes can avoid any significant interference effect by doing their resistance routine before their aerobic routine or separating their aerobic and resistance within a particular day. And that was by Randall Plater, who is the Associate Professor of Kinesiology, Nutrition, and Health at Miami University. And I actually might try to see if Dr. Plater can come on and talk a little bit more about this because this is something that I find really interesting, and hopefully you guys too, but hopefully this answers your question, and I would love to hear which do you prefer. Again, I prefer to do my cardio first and then move into my strength training, but I wouldn't be surprised if for most people it's the opposite. So fill me in, and if you guys are looking for the best way to get your strength training in, you know it's important, but you're having a hard time finding something where you want to stick to a routine, make it consistent, and actually start to see results, then check out Fit Women's Weekly, which is my program. And I have a program called Fit Women's Weekly Live, where every single day, Monday through Friday, I go live with a brand new workout and I do it from start to finish. I push myself so that I can help you push yourself in a way that's actually going to elicit results. Remember, we're trying to get the body to go, what are you doing? And in that process, it's going to have to make itself stronger. That's how you get results, is by pushing outside of your comfort zone. And unfortunately, over 70% of people do not push themselves hard enough in their workouts to actually elicit muscle growth. So that's why I created Fit Women's Weekly Live, to help you do it and to have a training partner and a personal trainer that's going to help you every step of the way. I think that those are two very, very important elements, and I am so happy that I get to be both of those things for you. And you get to try it for free, link down in the show notes. There's also a link down for my RNA Reset, which is my favorite magnesium that I use. It's actually liquid magnesium. You only use a half a teaspoon every single day. And so one jar has 90 something servings in it. It's insane. I love it. I've been using it now for about 2 months, and I'm so happy that I am, compared to using the powders or the pills that I was using before, because again, I just get much more bang out of my buck. It's concentrated, and I really love the fact that one bottle is going to last me so long, and it's very, very high quality. So link down below. And that's all I got for you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review if you can, and if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment letting me know what order do you do your training in. And if you have a question that you would like answered in a future episode, Don't hold back. Join in on the conversation. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. Bye.